right, it is that time of the week again, and we have some PCS trophy qualifier action. This one's going to be number 6, starting with the top 8 as usual. And if you are new to the channel, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you do like this particular matchup. If you do subscribe, you're going to get Legends of Runeterra tournament content and deck content and game content and all sorts of content every single week, day in and day out, except Sundays usually. But for this particular video, we have JusteBBTV versus Titi79, also known as Ghostwhite, as you'll see in the actual gameplay. That's the in-game name. Awesome to see some new faces in the top 8, as always, for this PCS trophy qualifier. And we only got 2 more qualifiers to go. So if you guys are looking for information on how to join one of these qualifiers to have your shot at the $500 grand prize tournament towards the end of August on the 21st and 22nd, there will be links in the description below for you guys to check out. But as far as this game is concerned, we have JusteBBTV playing an Ashe Sejuani mid-range Frostbite deck, very typical deck. Misfortune Quinn Scouts, and also Ezreal Karma. So overall, a pretty typical lineup. TT is playing something very similar, also playing the Ashe Sejuani mid-range Frostbite instead of the Ezreal Karma, opting to play the Ezreal TF, which is personally my favorite version of the deck. And as opposed to Scouts, we have good old standard Fiora, Garen, Bannerman, 100% actual Mono Demacia, nothing splash, no Omen Hawk, nada, nothing. Pretty typical lineups for both players, and we will see here who is going to go ahead and advance to the top 4 in this first game of the top 8. I will apologize. The first 2 turns here got cut off due to some technical problems, so we are going to get started on turn 3 here, but there's not much that was missed in the first couple of turns, as I'm sure you guys could guess. There shouldn't be any problems for the remainder of the tournament footage. But without further ado, let's get into the top 8. Titi79 versus JusteBBTV.
Ghostwhite decides he can get a little bit more value out of this Make It Rain, so doesn't want to fire it off just to get double Merchant down, which I'm not sure is true. I mean, there are 2 copies of Ranger's Resolve in JusteBBTV's deck. It's not typically a card that we see get a lot of value in the Bannerman matchup. I think I would have preferred to see the Make It Rain fired off with double Black Market Merchant, because when you're playing against Bannerman, you have to understand that you are almost certainly going to steal a unit from your opponent, and if you can get 2 units that are discounted in cost, you get to fight for the board so much more effectively.
Yeah, and now what are your thoughts real quick? We do see the Zaunite Urchin coming down. I'm curious because we don't always see it. We've seen it pop up more, obviously, since the buff to the card. What are your thoughts on Zaunite Urchin and specifically the TF Ezreal deck?
I really like Zaunite Urchin in every Ezreal deck that isn't Karma Ezreal, because I think it's better than Rummage when you don't have the opportunity to double up on Rummage.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you there. I wouldn't say it's just flat out better than Rummage, just because. All right, well, actually, you said instead of the only Karma would be the only exception, which makes sense because then obviously Rummage is draw 4 with a leveled Karma on the field. And yeah, the one good thing with Zaunite is it also gives you that chump blocker, right? So if you are in a matchup like this or some sort of aggro matchup, even though right now aggro seems to have kind of fallen off the map a little bit, you do have that additional chump blocker to suck up these attacks and let it make it so you can live until that turn 8.
Turn 8 being sort of the pivotal turn, as the Riptide Rex is already in the hand of Ghostwhite. Looks like there's one in the hand of JusteBBTV as well, but that is just Ghostwhite's hand superimposed onto the other side of the board as well. And I guess Ghostwhite saved this Make It Rain to try and get value with the Twisted Fate as well. I'm not sure that I love that. I still think I would have preferred to see the double Merchant, but he has to high roll this Make It Rain in order to get, sort of maximum value out of it.
Yeah, and we all know how that goes. Okay, so unless he was kind of thinking that this is how... Okay, no, he's just going to say with the Mystic Shot. There we go. That makes sense. Now he has a really good Make It Rain. It will clear the board. And, yeah, okay, I think this is spectacularly played by not Ghostwhite, Titi79, Ghostwhite. And I do think he set this up pretty well to be able to give himself not only a TF still on the board, but a clear side of the board on his opponent. Unless... Is he playing... I was going to say, is he playing Repost, but we are going to see the single combat come out.
And to answer your question, yes, he is playing Riposte. So
Two of
that's something that I wanted to ask about. For a lot of these Bannerman decks, the standard spell lineup has pretty much become either you run just Ranger's Resolve and Relentless Pursuit because you're an aggro version, you don't get to take advantage of single combat very well, or you play this very wide spread of like 1 and 2 of spells where you've only got a couple copies of Ranger's Resolve, single combat, Relentless Pursuit, Riposte, back-to-back. What are your thoughts on this like 1/2 of spell lineup where we see a very wide spread of spells?
So just basically the difference between only having a couple spells versus having something like this where there's like 6 spells.
I think the couple of spells version makes sense. It's this one really where like you're not committing to any one spell as a 3 of. You're kind of diversifying your spell lineup and just not running.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so like you're saying some decks will only run 2 spells but 3 of, and this one's running 5 spells but like 2 and 1 of. I'm always for playing more different types of cards, if that makes sense, because it's more cards your opponent has to play around. So in a competitive scene, because you are accessing your opponent's deck, you are able to see their deck. I do like the additional kind of advantage, I would say, that it gives you. Even just like, playing, like as an example, playing 1 Ruination in your deck, now your opponent has to play around Ruination. Now it's one of the easier cards to play around, but when you have something like a single combat and a Ranger's Resolve and a Relentless Pursuit and a Riposte and a back-to-back, now there's all these different cards that any one turn at the beginning of the game you have to account for and kind of play around a little bit. All right, and we see the attack token going over to TT here. We'll see what he ends up doing. It looks like he's deciding to possibly do the pick a card to level up this Twisted Fate. There could be another single combat on the side of BBTV. Obviously, we see that that's not the case. So he could try to go for some additional draw. Maybe this Twisted Fate eventually levels up. But BBTV is finally starting to, I don't want to say stabilize because that kind of gives the wrong impression, but starting to develop a board where he will be able to start putting the aggression onto TT.
Yeah, we only see 2 single combat out of the deck, and 1 was used already, so I understand not really fearing the single combat. I do have some opinions about the fact that we still have this Make It Rain that we could have fired off in a double merchant turn.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, I mean, even though, and I agree, you don't really have to worry about the single combat right now, but even though that's probably not an issue, you still have this Valor, just kind of chilling, and that will be able to suck up this, and the Bannerman misses. Okay, I was gonna say, and he has the Bannerman on top of that. That's pretty big. It's always a feels bad man moment when you miss the Bannerman, and that might maybe be the difference maker here with this Petty Officer now coming down to suck up some of these attacks.
And with the way Ghostwhite has been playing with this Twisted Fate so far, I think it's pretty likely he fires off the Make It Rain, and this is going to play out really poorly for him. But he does so this is rough because you do get the Make It Rain off before, or you get the Ranger's Resolve out of your opponent before the Riptide Rex turn, which is very important.
Yes.
The problem is if you lose this Legion Saboteur, then you don't have an activator for Riptide on the following turn. You have not actually gotten down this Yordle Grifter just yet.
Well, I think he can live without blocking with it, right?
I don't know if he can through the Relentless Pursuit.
And that's almost definitely going to come out. I mean, BBTV has got to... You just got to assume on turn 8 Riptide is coming down, so I imagine that's exactly what BBTV is doing as we speak, considering the Riptide coming down, and yeah.
I think this Thermo Beam bails him out, though. Because you are enticed to play this fleeting Thermo Beam, and even through the Ranger's Resolve, it still will have a kill lined up onto the Quinn, so I'd imagine that's what we're going to see here.
Yeah. Oh, ooh. All right. I kind of agree with you. I'd like to see the Thermo Beam come down instead of this Black Market Merchant, because I do feel like he needs to just live through this turn. Like, and we've talked about this before, where there's just like that one turn, you get over that hump, and you're golden. And I think this is it. Wow, now you almost got me saying Ghostwhite. If TT can get over the hump and make it to this Riptide and then the following turn, I don't think there's any way that BBTV can come back in this. So I think, yeah, he is, I believe, making the right decision playing this Thermo Beam right here.
And I'm honestly not sure how I feel about the way that Ghostwhite has actually navigated through this matchup. It feels like this Legion Saboteur is sort of a really big bailout for them into this Riptide Rex turn. And, they sort of threw away the tools to play it on 8 earlier. We never saw this Yordle Grifter come down. I think I would have liked to see the double Merchant turn a little bit earlier on. I'm curious to see how this actually does work out for them.
Yeah, and I think he's considering a repost here on the side of BBTV. That would force the block out from the Legion Saboteur. Wow, and he goes with the repost.
It doesn't force the block because you can't Relentless Pursuit now. And I think Ghostwhite understands that they have to have this Legion Saboteur live in order to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, so wait, I'm a little 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm a little confused as to why BBTV went that route, because he would have done more damage with the Relentless.
Well, now he saves the Relentless. Actually, no, he wouldn't. He would have dealt 10 damage with the Relentless.
Well, no, he would have done, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then he would have attacked again.
Well, the Quinn would have died.
To
the Thermo Beam that we
the Thermo Beam. Okay, that's right. Okay.
It feels like you didn't understand what just...
Sorry, no, that repost just completely whiffed over the top of my head. So, okay, all right. So he does actually do more damage with this, and I know you mentioned he saves the Relentless. I don't think saving the Relentless actually matters here, though. Like, I think I still would have preferred to have the repost, because at what point, if the Riptide comes down next turn, you're not going to have a wide board that's really going to be able to utilize Relentless.
So this is actually the first time that I've ever seen the slow speed on Relentless come up, because previously JusteBBTV would be able to Relentless Pursuit in combat, get that first priority sequence after combat, and immediately attack for lethal with this Bannerman and Quinn.
Beam,
But now, if you play it, you open yourself up to the Riptide.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I think this is definitely the first time that I've actually seen this nerf come up.
Well, and even with that Thermo Beam, he could have played the Relentless prior to the Thermo Beam coming out as well. It's anything that's sort of like a slow speed spell like that, or a slow speed interaction, is going to have that happen. And I agree. It's, I want to agree it's the first time we're noticing it. I feel like it's probably come up before, but it's such a minor interaction. It doesn't, I don't think, usually change the game, but in this case, it might have actually changed the game for BBTV. And I don't think there's anything you do besides the Riptide, and
we are considering this Yordle Grifter trying to get Riptide value on the following turn, but that is really scary. Ghostwhite, I don't know if you've heard of an open attack before, but it is something that will kill you and not give you an opportunity to Riptide.
Listen, I will say, we very frequently get open attack wrong. So maybe it's confusing what an open attack is, but we do see Riptide Rex come down. Thank God, because that would have been really bad to... this might still be close, though, because of this Misfortune. The Misfortune is going to be able to just do direct damage. We probably will see the Thermo Beam come down on the Misfortune next turn, but we have a Cythria as well. So he might be able to lure out this Thermo Beam onto the Cythria.
Yeah, worth noting that JusteBBTV was actually really close to lethal on this turn. If that Cythria was something like a Fleet Feather Tracker, we actually would just have lethal for Ghostwhite with the Relentless Pursuit, which I think is, or for JusteBBTV rather, and I think that's what Ghostwhite was really considering with that Riptide play, is if my opponent has Relentless and 2 units they can play, I'm just dead. Things not quite lining up that way for JusteBBTV. And there is still a window for JusteBBTV to win. Ghostwhite doesn't have a phenomenal board setup. Here we're going to see this.
Here's the Fleet Feather.
The Fleet Feather come out. I would assume this is answered by the Yordle Grifter. Please do not play a Jagged Butcher.
Yeah, wait, there's actually no reason to play the Jagged Butcher here. I do think Yordle Grifter... Oh, we played the Butcher.
Okay, so we're trying to still have Thermo Beam mana for the Cythria. That's why we went for the Butcher.
Yeah, but I still think you play the Yordle Grifter there. I mean, hell, you could even argue that you get the Plunder effect off and he becomes a 3/3. Not that it matters too much right now, but...
Okay, if we're not Thermo Beaming the Cythria, I don't know why we played Jagged Butcher first. Please put Thermo Beam the Cythria, otherwise I don't know how to... I thought I understood your thought process, Ghostwhite.
If he plays the Yordle Grifter, he just loses, right? The 7/4 blocks. Oh yeah, because
Chat just scared the hell out of me because they said they agree on Riptide, and I think 15 minutes ago we were talking about Riptide in the Israel matchup and not the Riptide that we just saw come down, and I was like, shit, did we not put the delay on again?
Yeah. No, you're good. Everything makes sense now. And yeah, we do see, man, this Fleet Feather pulling the Riptide Rex, and I think that's going to be game with this Relentless Pursuit. I'm trying to see. Ghostwhite can play the.
So you can block the Misfortune with the Yordle Grifter, block the Cythria with the Jagged Butcher, and that makes Cythria vulnerable to this Thermogenic Beam. Oh no, you can't because of the buff from the Cythria. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is just lethal. The Misfortune will survive.
Yeah, Misfortune's going to live, and that's 2 procs of her effect, and then on top of that, another attack. And I don't know if there's a... Oh yeah, and the Riptides, everything's dying. He's not going to have enough blockers for everything. That's just game.
Yeah, I think if you had played the Thermo Beam instead of this Yordle Grifter, you would have been okay.
You would have been okay this turn, and then your opponent probably would have played Relentless. Then you would have had to play, Brightsteel or something. And yeah, I think he would have been able to stay in it and make it to at least the next turn, which at that point he would have been fine.
Ghostwhite has played this very differently than I would have. And it feels like they kind of got punished for it. I'm curious to see if they can clean it up in the next one, but I'm definitely sort of the opinion that Ghostwhite did not deserve to win this game. This loss definitely feels very justified.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think that whole line there with the Riptide and going into the Thermo Beam and playing, I just don't think it was the correct order. On a couple different occasions, there was like maybe 3 different cards that he could have played differently, and he just opted to go a different route, and just didn't work out for him. And he's got to know there's a Relentless. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess you play the Thermo Beam, but like, you got to know there's a Relentless, man. There's nothing he could do about it.
And I really have to think back to the... Oh, actually, okay, so Ghostwhite can live. You just play a unit, and then when the Relentless comes out, you Thermo Beam the Misfortune.
If he plays the Brightsteel, okay. Well, not even, because it will... Yeah, that's not fearsome. So, wow. Okay, so he does actually live through this turn.
Yeah, it doesn't... Oh, well, no, we'll actually have an answer for the Cythria next turn in the Ezreal as well.
Yeah.
So maybe actually Ghostwhite brings this one back.
Wow. Yeah, wow. And I didn't even realize that. I wasn't even thinking about just being able to Thermo after the fact. And Now, wait, did Relentless being slow matter there either? I'm trying to think.
That slow Relentless Pursuit came up really big in this specific match. There are still some potential lethal top decks out of JusteBB. That's a pretty good one. I don't think... If I've done my math correctly, Ghostwhite can put JusteBBTV to 2.
Wait, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, wait, is that... Yeah, wait, no, 1, I think. Wait. 2, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 2. No, you're right, 2.
So the question now becomes, does Cythria, or do you pray to... You're basically... Okay, so this is a really awkward position for Ghostwhite, because if you kill the Cythria and then you top deck a spell, you lose. But if you kill the Cythria and top deck a unit, you live through the Genevieve. So Ghostwhite is now playing the odds game. Is there a unit or is there a spell on top of my deck?
Wow.
And if they guess wrong, they lose.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of followers, though. There's actually, I don't know what's been played. I mean, we don't have the entire list. Generally speaking, there's a higher chance he'll draw a champion or a follower. But, yeah, I guess we'll see here. It comes down to a top deck. And I still think, I mean, we were just mentioning this earlier, I still think that if he did play some of those cards a little bit differently, he wouldn't have even been in this situation in the first place. He wouldn't have taken nearly as much damage as he has. But, hey, we'll see. The top deck is... Oh, it's it. All right. Wow.
So he gets the best of both worlds. Ghostwhite failed out again. Top decks the followers spell.
Wow. Champion spell, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, because I was thinking, like, all right, he's got 6 champions and 19 followers, and I myself wasn't even thinking, all right, well, technically, if he draws an Ezreal, that's actually a spell. So, wow.
But
and
if Ghostwhite had gone for... I really have to think back to that Pull Shark turn. If you had just run out both Black Market Merchants, I don't think you would have ever actually lost the board against your Bannerman opponent, because you would have had these reduced cost units. And I feel like Ghostwhite didn't really value the pilfer effects against a Bannerman deck as much as I would have liked them to. I think that's a very effective matchup for the stealing cards. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, still picks up the W. It feels like he got pretty lucky at the end there. Things had to really work out in his favor, especially having the balls to go for that. I'm going to top deck a spell and then being wrong and still getting the win because it's a champion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, he got rewarded for it. I don't know if he actually punched the numbers there in his head while he was thinking of that chance to draw that spell, but it worked out.
There is an ancient card game proverb, better lucky than good.
I mean, yeah, I got to agree with that proverb. It works out 9 times out of 10, right?
And this is one of those 9. But we'll see if Ghostwhite can kind of clean it up. You know, obviously did make the top 8 of a tournament. As critical as we are of their play so far, you know, they do have a chance to bring it back, kind of impress us. You know, if that's something that when you're playing, don't play to impress the casters. We're gonna find something to nitpick anyway.
Well, no. Don't encourage them to not impress us. They should totally impress. I would be impressed if this was a Poro deck. Then I'm impressed. You make finals with a Poro deck, then I'm impressed. That's how it goes. Or, well, we lost Boulevard, guys. And not because of a connection problem.
I actually just left this time.
Yeah, you really... No, it's not frozen, guys. he DC'd completely. Oh, man. And, all right, so now we have some mid-range Frostbite action, which, again, I think from what you said, there was 6 out of 8 people in the top 8 that are currently playing this deck. And we're going to see the Karma Ezreal deck. So this is generally a matchup... I mean, I give it to the Karma Ez, but there is this small window with the mid-range Frostbite. If you are able to kind of put the aggression on early, maybe by turns 5 or 6. Is TT playing Captain Farron or no?
I believe everybody has gone to Captain Farron at this point. Actually, JusteBBTV has not, but TT also has not. Yeah.
Yeah,
so players playing Farron, and they're actually both playing sort of the older, more control-y version, no K to the arm, no Reckless Trifarian, which I think is actually worse in this particular matchup. I think Reckless Trifarian is actually very good against the Karma Ezreal.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons why Captain Farron is such a usual inclusion nowadays is that this deck needs that reach in a matchup like this. You need that card to turn down or come down late game, and especially if you're having to deal with something like an Eye of the Dragon, there's additional heal. You're never really going to be aggressive enough to be able to get them to 0. And Captain Farron, you might get them to like 7 or 6 or something like that. They might even still have, a health potion or whatever, depending on what the deck's playing. The Captain Farron lets it so you just have a guaranteed win over the course of 2 turns, and we're not going to see that here, so I got to give the advantage to BBTV.
A lot of reach missed out on this particular list. No Kato the Arm, which presents an overwhelming amount of overwhelm. As well as no Kato the Arm coming out, or as long as no Captain Farron coming out. And aside from the fact that he creates 3 decimates, that's an 8/8 body with overwhelm. That's hard to deal with on its own. A lot of times when we're calculating Farron damage, we only count the decimates, and you still get to attack with a massive 8/8 that has a very relevant keyword.
Yeah, 100%. Overwhelm is a thing, and I've been experimenting with some more Overwhelm decks as of late as well, ever since Darrowing was a thing. Thank God Darrowing is not a thing anymore, but Captain Farron is very much still a thing, just not in this deck. We do see Sejuani also has Overwhelm. We'll see if it comes down here on turn 6 in a couple of turns. Usually Sejuani's a pretty guaranteed turn 6 play, and it looks like TT will have the attack token on turn 6 as well, so I would be surprised to not see it.
Sejuani on 6, definitely kind of questionable if it's your off turn. We almost certainly are going to see that since they do have the attack token. A little curious how things are going to play out in the meantime, though, as this Trifarian Assessor not going to get a lot of value here. We see that Deny picked up for JusteBBTV, which is actually... I think it's pretty likely that gets discarded to the Rummage, as the only 2 cards you can deny in this deck are Culling Strike and Reckoning. And I'm not sure that you want to be kind of holding on to that for so long. And JusteBBTV absolutely loaded up on stun effects with double Concussive Palm, double Steel Tempest. And Ghostwhite doesn't really have the punish. You would want to build up multiple 5-attack units that your opponent can't remove and then get a big Assessor draw, but you don't have the opportunity for that. I do like getting down this 5/3 Archer, because that does set you up for a better Trifarian Assessor turn on turn 7 after the Sejuani comes down.
Yeah, it's still going to be rough. I mean, I just looking at BBTV's deck list, too, he is actually playing 2 health potions. which I think is the lesser route taken nowadays, with there being a little less aggro in the environment, or burn aggro, I should say. He does decide to go with the 2 Steel Tempest and 3 Concussive Bombs, like you just mentioned, a ton of stun in his hand. And it's so funny to see Steel Tempest just have a resurgence. I think not necessarily because it went down in cost, but more so because Will of Ionia is up in cost. So Will of Ionia is also in the deck as a 2 of, but feels bad at 5 mana.
For sure. And here we see Ghostwhite not go for a greedy Assessor. Just kind of playing out the Glory Seeker as well as the Assessor on the same turn, not going for the Sejuani on turn 6 into the Glory Seeker Assessor on turn 7. Would have drawn an additional card, but isn't really going to matter. Does pick up the Hearthguard, which is a pivotal card in this matchup. We don't typically see Hearthguard out of the Kato Reckless version. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I feel like more often than not we don't. And that is the one thing that this version of the deck does still have in its favor to deal with the Karma Ezreal. These damage-based removal matchups are not going to line up particularly well into a Hearth-guarded up deck. So that is a very vital pickup for Ghostwhite.
And we do see this Steel Tempest come out onto the Archer. So getting some value out of that Steel Tempest a little bit and saving the... oh, God. What is that called again that comes from that spell? Tail of the Dragon?
Tail of the Dragon.
Hey, that's what it is. Isn't that, what's the other one that when you recall it, you get a slow spell plus 2 for health, or plus 3 for health?
Scales of the Dragon?
Scales of the Dragon. Sorry, it's not when you recall, just when you play it, you get a yep.
We've actually seen an uptick in that card as of late. I really like that card.
I like that card too. I'm kind of depressed that it doesn't get played more, to be honest with you.
I think we'll kind of see people experiment with it more as, you know, the Shadow Assassin nerf came out. Not necessarily right now, but maybe a little bit down the line. Just kind of thinking towards the release of the set later this month, like maybe we'll see more Ionia control decks come up. Maybe we'll get to see Scale get played a little bit more. And I don't know about you, but I've recently started thinking about this. We're going to have to memorize a lot of card names.
Oh, God, that's a thing when the new set comes out. Oh!
I never really thought of that as, like, something that I have to do when a new set comes out, but
no, that's like a requirement
that I have to do.
Yeah, and really fast, too, because if we have a tournament that weekend with that set, oh, boy, I'm gonna be putting it up on my wall right here just as, like, a reference. Oh, man, that's going to be rough.
If my math is correct, we're going to have a Duels of Runeterra that weekend.
Well, plus PCS.
PCS will be over before the set drops, right? I thought we had determined that.
No. I think it's on the 20. Sorry, we're already in August.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, it'll be right after.
So, literally like 2 days after probably the patch goes live. So it'll be interesting for sure.
That's the biggest tournament weekend we could possibly have at Duels of Runeterra and the PCS Championship. We cannot get. I haven't had to study in years.
Oh yeah, no, this is legit. This is gonna be some hardcore studying. Like we're gonna have to do a study group. I'll meet you at the library, man. Okay. Meet you at the library to study some Runeterra action. And
2 grown men in a library during a pandemic. This is my friend shit. We're learning card names.
And we do see the Yone come out. We've seen the Yone in general in this deck just a little bit more recently since, again, the Will of Ionia nerf. Just another option. Provides 2 targets and a big old blocker in a 6/6 body. Right here, it's going to do a little bit of work. And again, we're getting on, what is that, we're on turn 8, about to be on turn 9. And that's a problem for TT. I mean, he's got a decent board, but I don't know if there's going to be anything he can do.
Yeah, and JusteBB finally picked up the Karma Ezreal combo. Can throw down the Karma this turn and have Deny backup. But I think you want to wait until next turn, as it does take you out of range of the Reckoning. Is going to throw it down now, though, and this isn't a super great Reckoning for Ghostwhite. It's as good as your Reckoning gets, so you might as well throw it out, and then you will have the Harsh Wind's Culling Strike available next turn if you want to kill the Karma, or just the Culling Strike to take out the Ezreal. So things could work out for Ghostwhite here, but looks like they just might not even try to kill the Karma, and instead is going to throw down the Ashe.
Yeah, probably assuming that BBTV has a Deny, so maybe hoping that BBTV plays something here. That way it puts him underneath the 4 mana, and then he's able to play the culling strike, I guess, but I kind of agree with you. I feel like there's no other situation that he's going to get a better reckoning that he could have right there. Yeah, you would have pulled out the deny, but okay, at least you get the deny out. So that's a win, I guess, kind of.
Because you have the culling strike in hand, maybe.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned, there are only 2 deny targets in this deck, and you see both of them right there in the culling strike and the deny. True Shot Barrage, the random created spell, is actually really impactful with the level of karma.
It's funny. True Shot Barrage is generally considered not that great of a card, but I feel like when you get it randomly in a game, it's actually not that bad. Like, it's a pretty good spell that you can get.
Yeah, I feel like I'm never really disappointed to see the True Shot Barrage. And it looks like we're just going to see a surprise lethal out of Ghostwhite. That is one of the big things you can do with Harsh Winds. I think JusteBBTV survives this.
Let's see. So we got the health potion in hand.
Concussive Palm, Concussive Palm, Steel Tempest, Health Pot, and Static Shock can all get played here. So I'm 99% sure we're living through this.
And I do believe... Looks like we've... Oh, man, you know, streams always freeze right at the best times. Right at the best. There we go. Back in business, baby. And, all right, yeah. So this is one hell of an attack right now. With, okay, here's the response. And we see 2 spells out that aren't even health potion yet. So we still have that health potion to fall back on. This karma is leveled, which is why, yeah, this is just going to kind of be like a nuts turn.
Lethal, right? JusteBBTV still has Ezreal deny mana.
Yeah, he's got 7 mana left right now.
But instead just passes the turn. Playing around the double culling strike.
Man, this is,
JusteBBTV just wins this, though, right? Like, eventually you are going to get this Ezreal down. This rummage that you've had since the beginning of the game is going to get to draw 4 cards with the Ezreal out in the karma. I'm pretty sure JusteBBTV has this one in the bag.
Yeah, when you have a health potion and a rummage in hand, and an Ezreal already in hand, and a karma already on the field, yeah, there's not really much you can do.
This Assessor does mean that we're going to see the Ezreal come down, no longer afraid of the double culling strike. Does have the deny for the single culling strike, and that should be lethal on the following turn. You even get to feel safe going for the Ezreal attack as an open attack to get that Mystic Shot, and then, you know, if the Reckoning comes out or the Crystal Arrow, it doesn't really matter. You've still got the spell. And I'm not really seeing anything that Ghostwhite could draw. JusteBBTV is still hovering this Ezreal, deciding whether or not they want to play it. Just play the damn thing. There we go. Gonna get that Ezreal down straight away.
Yep, and already leveled up with that karma on field. Feels pretty bad. Still with the 4 deny mana, too. So, you know, TT does have this culling strike that I imagine you just try to play right now just in hopes your opponent doesn't have a deny. But, yeah, it's going to get denied, and it's not going to feel too hot.
Look, all I'm saying is that a little bit earlier, you know, I mentioned you throw down this Reckoning to bait out the deny. And look, all of a sudden you're in a situation where you wish your opponent didn't have a deny. All I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying?
Nah, I'm saying. Well, all right. So here's the deal, though.
Okay.
Or, well, actually, no, never mind. I was going to say, because the attack token's going over to BBTV.
Yeah.
So you could now get a Reckoning off, theoretically, on most of the board, but...
After your opponent hits you with an Ezreal to get a Mystic Shot.
Yeah, exactly. So now your Ezreal's going to go off first, then you're going to have all these spells in hand, a Mystic Shot, so you're pretty much already dead, you know, regardless. So yeah, and now we're seeing, too, like we said, it doesn't get better. Obviously, right now, this Reckoning would be a lot better than the one previously, but he wouldn't have gotten a better chance. And now we can see this Reckoning all the way to the left of his hand means... It's been chilling there for a while, and you ain't going to be getting to use it anytime soon.
I definitely feel like Ezreal doesn't promote healthy gameplay when you get to say something like, "Oh, I played a board wipe and my opponent killed me in response from 75% of my life total." Instead, we're going to open with the Static Shock going 2 at the face, and that does mean that JusteBBTV only has to draw 1 playable spell off of this rummage. 4 mana or less is what we're looking for, and you have, I think, 6 draws to get to 1. There's the Mystic Shot. That's going to be lethal in response to the Reckoning. That's going to be JusteBBTV Sort of tying up this series 1-1. Here comes the board wipe. What does that mean? It means you die, my
it means
friend.
Nothing. It means you thought you had a good reckoning, and then you didn't. So, yeah, Ezreal, again, taking home the victory. And I just got to say it again. If we haven't already said this enough, I don't think it's Karma. I think it's Ezreal. I think Ezreal's the problem child of this family, and he's just, everywhere we go, we just see more and more Ezreals day in and day out, including this, this thing that can summon, 4 Ezreals to the field and do, 30 damage in one turn. We thought 20 was all you needed to do. Why do 20 when you can do 30? Come on.
I'm wondering if there is going to be something out of the new set that lets you increase your maximum life total. That is a mechanic we've seen in card games before.
Yeah, we have. Actually, even Hearthstone had it, because Hearthstone, generally, you can't go above your max health, but they have, Priest had one, right?
Yeah, they had a quest that gave you a card that set your life to 40.
It started with an A or something. I forget the name of the card. It was some girl that you played, and she raised your life, I think. But, I don't know. I mean, that's one thing I gotta say I like about Magic, I guess, but the problem is when you can heal above your max life, it promotes longer games, generally. I like me some shorter games. We already dealt with some spooky karma last weekend. I am okay with there being a max life total, so you can't go over 20 in life. And next up here, we have game number 3 with BBTV taking home game 2. It's going to be the mid-range Frostbite again versus the Scouts that we just saw earlier, or the Bannerman, whatever you want to call it. It's got Bannerman in the deck. I know that.
So this is where I want to bring up, if you don't mind. I did a matchup breakdown of this matchup a little bit earlier this week. And this actually should go better for Ghostwhite than we kind of expected to. So typically this was one of the most one-sided matchups in the game for the Frostbite mid-range deck. Then we saw the Frostbite mid-range deck move away from Frostbite control into Frostbite mid-range. They dropped the Rime Fang Wolf, they dropped the Flash Freezes, they moved into more of an aggro package so that they could beat out other mid-range decks. And then we saw Bannerman move to the aggro version. That gave them a little bit more percentage points. We don't see the final stop here from Ghostwhite. That sort of swings it back into Bannerman's favor of that, we play the Reckless Trifarian and these units that can't block. So I think with this version of the deck versus this version of the deck, this should be about 70-30 in Ghostwhite's favor, but it's still not, as one-sided as we were typically seeing, and we ran into this a lot last weekend where this used to be a very one-sided matchup, and nowadays it feels like Bannerman has sort of closed the gap. It's still very much Frostbite favored, but not as one-sided as it used to be, and I think because it happened so gradually, it was easy for us to miss.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Those Reckless Trifarians are pretty big in this matchup where they can't block with what you just mentioned. And we see, Babbling Bjergs in here as well. Obviously, the regular Aversion Trappers that we see. There's just going to be a lot of these random units to gum up the board and trade. And while they trade, they also give TT some additional cards. Aversion Trapper, well, it puts the Yeti in the deck, but Babbling Bjerg draws you one to your hand. The Assessor obviously will draw you some more cards as well, and that's obviously a weakness of the Bannerman deck that you don't get with Bannerman. That's the downside. You go all out, you win by turn, maybe 6 or 7, and if you don't win, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
or maybe I should say, if you don't top deck a Relentless Pursuit by then, you probably lose.
Yeah. Speaking of losing, Ghostwhite does have Reckoning, which is sort of the one thing that throws every theoretical percentage point out the window, and you do just typically get blown out by this. Actually, in one of the games that I broke down, it was Hyped versus Anidesu, and Hyped had the Reckoning in hand, but never really found an opportunity to play it because he did only have one 5-attack unit for so long, had to play around the single combat. Typically, to feel safe, you need 2 units out with 5 attacks so that you could play around the single combat. With Ash and Elixir of Iron, Ghostwhite should be able to get through it, though. And, I think this means Reckoning's coming down around turn 5, which feels fine. It's before the Genevieve turn, which is really all that matters, because if your opponent gets Bannerman into Genevieve, then all of a sudden your Reckoning is off the table for most of your opponent's units.
Yeah, he needs to basically hope that BBTV doesn't play anything with 4 attack or get anything up to 4 attack. Or, sorry, 5 attack, I should say, so that it kills the Ash with a single combat or something. Past this Elixir of Iron that he has in his hand. Which, actually, if he goes to turn 5, though, he doesn't have Elixir of Iron with it. So he might not opt to go on turn 5. It might actually wait until turn 6 that we see this Reckoning come out.
Yeah, we did mention that this is one of the versions running single combat.
Yeah. 2 single combat, 2 repost, a back-to-back, a relentless pursuit, and 2 good old Rangers resolve. And yeah, I mean, you have to play around the single combat. Either that or he does draw a 5 attack unit and he still has yet to draw anything with 5 attack. Or BBTV could go beneath, 2 mana. I don't necessarily see that happening, but
I do.
It's a possibility.
If you go Fleet Feather Bannerman, seems like a very appealing play this turn.
Yeah, you go pretty wide with that too, getting a really large buff. And I think, yeah, actually everything would still be within range of Reckoning if that happens, so that's going to feel super bad. Do you just... I don't think you can really pass because an open attack is going to be a little bit too much damage here. Do you...
For who? I think if Ghost White passes, then JusteBBTV is inclined to attack again rather than play anything out, kind of reading the Reckoning.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's passing. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that shows BBTV that TT 100% has Reckoning, and he does decide to go with the attack, hold the Misfortune back, and we'll see how this next portion of the turn goes, though, right? I mean, we're going to see 4 damage onto TT. It's going to be whether or not this Fleet Feather and the Bannerman come down is the issue here. Oh, and there's the Avarosian Hearthguard. So we do have 2 5-attack units now, so I imagine that in the next couple of turns we are 100% going to see this Reckoning come down.
If this Bannerman comes down, though, and then we see Genevieve as the follow-up, the entire board is out of range for JusteBBTV. But he does have the first priority sequence.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, and that is it. We have BBTV advancing to the top 4. Who is going to be taking home this PCS qualifier, or at least making it into the finals to get that coveted invite for the $500 tournament? We will see. We got 2 more videos coming out. So again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell so you get notified when the videos pop up. And as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.